Hello and welcome to this quick start guide to paraglider tracking. Paraglider tracking is a set of mostly free systems that allow you to share your position while you're flying. This is primarily for safety. If you crash, it will make it much quicker and easier for the emergency services to find you. In remote locations, that could mean the difference between life and death. Tracking is also very useful for retrieves. If you have a dedicated retrieve driver coming to get you, it will be much quicker and easier for them to find you. Or you can use the retrieve systems to look for any pilots that might have landed near you and send them a message about sharing a ride or going for a nearby beer or an ice cream. Most competitions now require tracking in some form. Part of the reason for making this video is that the BCC, the British Club Challenge, now requires tracking with PureTrack. This guide will show you the quickest and easiest way to get this set up so that you can be ready for the BCC before you go and not be distracted with setting up tracking on the day. Finally, tracking is fun. Your friends and family can see where you are anywhere in the world, and you can even use the systems to track your paragliding friends while you're flying. I'm just going to note that if you're already an expert in tracking, this video is not for you. Some of the concepts in this video are simplified with the intention of compressing a large and technical topic into a short video that is quick and easy to digest. So, how do I get started? Later in this video, I'll go into some of the basic concepts in a bit more detail, but for now, let's focus on the shortest route to getting your tracking set up so you can join the BCC. The simplest, super quick way to set up tracking is to enable live tracking through XContest and link that to PureTrack. I'm going to focus on this setup because it is the easiest and uses the most popular paragliding app that most pilots are likely to already be using, XCTrack for Android or FlySky Hi for iPhone. First, make sure you have an account registered on XContest. Make sure when you register that you keep the box selected, register me to the contest World XContest 2025. This is free and required for the live tracking to work. Enter your XContest login details into the app you use for flying. Then you need to enable live tracking in the app settings. On FlySky Hi, this requires purchasing the social package. Once you have done that, you will need to join a group on XContest in order to generate a UUID for your XContest live tracking. Several XContest groups have been set up to facilitate this. Click the link in the description to join the PureTrack group. You will then be able to see your UUID. Make a note of this. Then head over to PureTrack and make an account. Set up a map marker with your name and chosen colour. Then click to add XContest as a tracking source. Well done! You're now all set up and ready to go. Just make sure that the next time you go flying, you check the PureTrack map and make sure that you're showing up. When you do that, you'll be able to click on your name and capture your PureTrack sharing link from the URL. Make a note of that link as you'll need it when you register for the BCC. If you already have other sources set up, you can also add these to your PureTrack account now. We'll go into further detail on this when we come back to PureTrack later in this video. Now I'm going to go into a bit more detail about some of the other tracking systems that are available and worth getting set up. These systems can be divided into three categories. Sources are what generate your signal. There are three ways you can generate and broadcast a signal. Either through the mobile phone network, which is what XCTrack and FlySky Hi are doing, or through FLARM, which sends out a radio signal, or finally through the satellite network, which is what a Garmin InReach does. I have all three of these systems set up so that if one goes down or doesn't have a signal, one or both of the other systems will likely still work and ensure that I'm still sharing my most recent position. Networks are less important to understand, but you do need to get these set up in order for your source data to reach the outputs. These include OGN, the Open Glider Network, and LiveTrack24. Outputs are a wide range of systems, mostly websites, that allow you to view the signal and see where you and all the other pilots are on a map. PureTrack is an example of this, and there are plenty of others used for different purposes, including Glide and Seek and XCRT.aero. If you're new to paraglider tracking, ask yourself, what do I already have? What apps and flight instruments do I already have that are creating a tracking signal? What are my codes and identifiers? Are they set up properly? Are they good enough? Or do I want to invest maybe in an additional device that generates a better tracking signal? Where am I sharing my signals? What networks can I register on? What display platforms can I register on? And what are my tracking links? If you're already using a device with FLARM, you will likely already appear on some of these display platforms. However, it's likely only going to show up your hex key, so if you register, then you can have it showing up with your name, which is far better. So I'm going to start off talking about sources. There are a lot of these available, and I'll go into a bit more detail in sort of three categories of these. So the first is smartphone apps. There's a variety of these apps available. We've already talked about the X Contest live tracking, which you do through XC Track, which is your navigation and flight instrument app, or Fly Sky High, which is the iPhone equivalent. There's also a number of others: XC Soar, CU Navigator, which is the Navitaire app, I believe, the XC Guide, Sports Track Live, and there are actually many others, and a lot of them are free. That's the main advantage. These are either free or cheap, and they're pretty easy to set up. The downside is they're going to be using up your battery, and if you're using your main smartphone as your flight instrument, then it's going to be draining the battery on that a little bit faster, and obviously if you run out of battery, it's useless. And it also relies on you having a mobile signal, and which you may not get above certain altitudes in the UK, but that's less of a problem if you're flying in the mountains. Second of all, there's FLARM. So if your device already has FLARM, then you are in a good position, and you should be able to get hold of your hex key and set this up so that you're also your tracking is also showing up through the OGN system. So the advantage of this is it's an independent system, and it's also providing electronic conspicuity. That's the main reason for FLARM. It's a collision avoidance system that works through FANET. Won't go into too much detail on that now. And it should be noted that electronic conspicuity is a separate topic. It's much broader, and I'm not going to be covering that here. And another advantage is it's generally pretty low power and low energy consumption. My FLARM device has a solar panel on it, and it never runs out of battery. The disadvantage are you need to have an instrument that has this, and it also relies on a radio signal network. So if there are no ground stations or other FLARM users nearby, then the signal isn't going to get through. And it is a little bit more tricky to set up. Some people find getting hold of their hex key difficult. Sometimes it's written on your device, on the back of your device, the manual that it came with, or possibly in a README file that's stored on the device. Finally, there are satellite trackers, and these are really the best sort of tracking that you can use because they'll work anywhere in the world. They don't rely on a cell phone network or a FLARM network, and it sends your location via satellite. And it's important to note this is not the same as your phone, which only uses a satellite to find your location and doesn't actually doesn't actually send your location. It just finds your location and then it sends it out. Your smartphone will then send that out through the cell phone network, through the mobile phone network, whereas these satellite trackers will actually send your position as an information packet back through the satellite network and then distribute that through the Garmin or Spot servers. The main advantage of this is an independent system. If you're using a Garmin, then it's got its own battery. It lasts for many days. It's got a high spatial and temporal accuracy, particularly if you're paying for the more expensive packages. And you can also use it to send SOS signals and text messages in areas that don't have phone signal. So this is a really extremely valuable safety device if you're doing adventure flying or you're flying in more remote areas or doing other sports. You can use it for other sports as well. The downside is it is quite expensive and you do need a subscription. I'm just going to go into a brief bit of detail on networks, and these are basically for distributing the signal that's generated through some of these devices. So it's so if you do have a FLARM device, you're going to need to go onto OGN and register it there. Click the link in the description to visit ddb.glidernet.org to register your FLARM device. Finally, I'm going to talk a bit about output. So this is where you can see the signal that you've been broadcasting. Where can you see yourself and others? PureTrack is the essential one that is being more and more widely adopted. It's the one you're going to need for the BCC, and it's really cool because it aggregates the tracking information from all of these different systems that I've just been talking about. There are a number of others. In the UK, we use something called xcrt.aero. There's plenty of information online about how to get that set up. It requires using Telegram bots. It's a little bit fiddly, but it is a fantastic system. It helps for sharing retrieves with other UK XC pilots. X-Contest live tracking we've already talked about, and Air Tribune is one of the ones that's used for a lot of competitions. There are a few others that are worth mentioning here. So flyxc.app, that's increasingly being adopted. It's a fantastic tool for researching flying routes and planning your cross country flying, and it's got lots of tools in there, really useful. And you can set up various devices to show up on there. My InReach will show up on there. Glide and Seek is another platform that's very widely used along fixed wing sailplanes. And again, if you've got your FLAM device set up on OGN, you will show up there. Then there's a number of others which I'm not going to talk about here that are somewhat less useful, but if you've got the time and are willing to go and set those things up, then that's also worth doing. LiveTrack24, I think you need to set that up if you want to get xcrt.aero to work, depending on what sort of tracking source you've got. Lots of these will also allow you to have a personalized tracking link. You can then share that with your family and friends so they can keep track of you and make sure they know where you are. And it's also good to have a personal WhatsApp safety group with some close family and friends, so that they know when you're going out and they know to expect a down safe message, and you can put your medical insurance details and tracking links in the description of that, so it's very easy for people to rescue you if you don't report back down safe by the end of the day. Maybe you want to put some of your personalized links in your Telegram profile, and that could be helpful. And finally, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about PureTrack. It's a really good system. You can add lots of different sources into it, and it's going to aggregate across all of them. You can go onto it, you can see people flying across the world, you can click on them and then it'll show up their track log as well, and it combines really a lot of features into a single dashboard, and it's increasingly being used and obviously required for the BCC, which is the main point of this video. Well, thank you very much for listening. This has gone on for longer than I expected to, so if you made it to the end, well done, and I hope you have lots of happy landings and great flights.